Welcome back to another episode of the Triple J Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, and I'm excited to welcome to the show and introduce you all today to our first female guest, our first former women's basketball player, an alum of Chico State women's basketball, now a senior sales leader in the Arbonne world of products and health, a fitness guru, fitness nut, self-described, a social media influencer with a tremendous amount of entrepreneurial success, great history that she has built from a foundation with her athletic career as a basketball player that she's translated into her life as a successful businesswoman, mom, and generally speaking, competitive driven winner in the general world of life here. So excited to bring her on, talk about her experiences as an athlete and how that's affected her life over the course of her business career. Without further ado, Kassidy Callori, former women's Chico State basketball player and current Arbonne and social media influencer. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Triple J Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, and we're back with another episode today, and I'm excited to welcome today's guest, RVP at Arbonne, social media influencer, health nut, I think is how you put it, or fitness nut,
sure.
And former basketball player at Chico State with a very, very cool story to tell. Kassidy Callori, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here. I hate the word influencer, by the way.
I know, I find it interesting, but unfortunately, that's what you are.
I know. It's such a weird word. I'm like, really? But yeah.
Yeah. That's it's kind of the way of the world, right?
Yes,
the thing all of our kids are going to have to deal with.
I will accept it.
Accept it, right? Well, you're doing a great job at that. So
thank you.
Let's start a little bit. Talk a little bit about your kind of your basketball career and kind of how we got started. So let's start with your kind of falling in love with basketball and how in childhood you became a basketball junkie. Yeah.
Yes, I grew up playing basketball. It was my first, second, third love. You probably get that.
Absolutely.
My goal was to play college basketball, so I went to Chico State, played 4 years there, had a blast. We were rivals.
This is true.
Hated UC Davis, but it was so much fun. And then after college, I coached at Folsom High School for 3 years. And then after that, I just kind of felt like my life had revolved around basketball for so long. And I met my husband, my ex-husband now, and I just decided we're going to hang up the basketball shoes and stop coaching and kind of put the focus into work and possibly my new relationship and all the other things that life had to throw at me. So
life is ever changing. We know that, right?
Yes.
So looking at those kind of basketball years and kind of how it formulated, what was the experience like playing at Chico State for you?
It was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. I actually went in my freshman year thinking I was going to coach or play for a coach named Marianne Lazzarini. And I think I had been at Chico for 2 weeks, and MA sat us down and told us she had cancer. And so her assistant stepped in, and her assistant definitely had something to prove. So my freshman year was really emotional. As a college athlete, like you come in, you're the best of your high school, at least you're top two. And you go in and you think you're going to play a lot. And you think it's going to be a lot different. And it really it shifts from being a love to a job. You still love it, but it's just different. Your class schedule is around basketball practice and lifting weights and conditioning. And pretty much every day is 4 to 5 hours dedicated to basketball, which to me, I loved it so much. So I loved it, but it was also, you're on your own for the first time. You have new teammates. I was playing for a coach that I didn't think I was going to. And so that season was a little bit difficult. Then MA came back. The cancer went away. So she came back my sophomore year. And I thought that year was going to be great. I was like, yes, MA's back. Here we go. Halfway through the season, she sat us down again, said cancer came back. And then she passed away in like 2 weeks. So that was really hard for all of us. Her assistant at the time was actually one of my high school assistants, Rich Simpton. And that season was, again, it was just funky, you know, like here I was playing for 3 different coaches. You go in thinking you're going to play for one. You're going to be like, I'm going to have one coach all 4 years. And then my junior year, and I wasn't playing like at all. My sophomore year, I played 48 total minutes. And that's like a game. And it was really frustrating because I had asked the coaching staff, hey, if I'm not going to play, can I redshirt? They're like, no, we need you, Cass. So here you're pouring everything into this sport that you love, and you're sitting on the bench the entire game. And then some games I wouldn't go in. And then some games I would go in the last 2 minutes. It was just so defeating. And there were definitely times that I thought about quitting, but I'm not a quitter. And so I was like, I'm going to tough it out. My junior year, a woman, her name's Lynn Roberts. She came in, and Lynn was 26, which is incredibly young, to take a head position at a Division II school. And, you know, you look at your life, and there's certain people who change the trajectory of your life. Lynn was one of my biggest. So my junior year, she came in. We all were getting adjusted to her. I still wasn't playing very much, but I was learning a lot. She was having us read books like John Maxwell Leadership. She was the one who was actually pouring into us to help us learn how to become really good humans, not just basketball players. Because a lot of times for women, when we're done playing basketball, we're done. A lot of us didn't have dreams to go play overseas. I don't think any of us really thought about playing in the WNBA, and you're really starting to shift from a basketball player into what am I going to do in my career?
Absolutely.
And that's what Lynn was really teaching us how to do. So my junior year was way more fun, but I still wasn't playing very much. And then my senior year, she made me a captain. And I was like, okay, this is the year. 4 years into this, I'm going to play. And we were supposed to be one of the best teams because we had so many juniors come back. And I think it was something like we went on a six game losing streak, and I wasn't playing very much. And so here I was. Those are fun, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember I called her in and I said, you made me a captain. You talk all these great things about me, yet you have the one person who probably wants to win more than anyone sitting on the bench. What do I have to do? And we had I was scared to have that conversation with her because here I was questioning her coaching. But I was kind of pleading my case because I was really, really close to quitting. But I knew I couldn't my senior year because here I had given so much and I just wanted the chance to play more. And we had a game that night. We lost. You remember we played Friday, Saturdays,
yep.
Right? Saturday morning comes around. She calls me in her office. She's like, Cass, you're going to start. I was like, what? She's like, you're going to start. So I went from like not playing, maybe playing 2-3 minutes, to you're going to start. I call my parents. My parents live in Grass Valley, which is an hour and a half away. And I'm like, I'm going to start. My parents weren't even coming to my games anymore. It was so frustrating for my dad. He knew how hard I worked that he was like, I can't physically sit there and watch you not play. It's like horrible for him. And I wasn't playing. So I'm like, okay. So they came down and I started, and I think I went for like 17 that game and we won. And we went on a 9-game winning streak, and I continued to start. And it was like, I just needed that chance. We ended up losing, I think, the first round of playoffs that year, which was super frustrating because it was my senior year. But that year really proved to me the importance of persistence and working in the dark and not giving up when you're not getting the praise, you're not getting the accolades. Everyone's questioning you. What are you doing? Why are you still doing it? Because no one really understood. And I really think that my basketball career and what I had to kind of experience through college gave me that fight to start a business, to do the weird thing, to leave corporate, and to build a team now with like so much grit, because that's
what it takes.
A lot of it is about grit. So
that's it's so crazy to hear you describe that. We share a lot of similarities in terms of the journey, and I always talk about my experience as a freshman. I kind of think I had imposter syndrome at Fresno State playing for Coach Sarkisian, because there was nothing but NBA guys around. I just saw him a few weeks ago, but Chris Jeffries, who was a first-round pick, was who I was going up against every day in practice, and it was a very cool experience, and I was playing a couple minutes. But then after he retired, the new staff didn't recruit me, didn't really see a fit. Mm-hmm. And then when I came to Davis, I actually came to play for Coach Fogel, who ended up coaching at Chico State for the women's team. But 2 weeks later, he was no longer the head coach. So I ended up playing 3 more years for a coach who didn't recruit me. And I had a lot of those same moments. That's how Greg Klink and I got really close, was because I considered the same thing, quitting at times, because it wasn't fun and I felt like it was challenged in ways that, but I just couldn't quit. I set out to do it, and I didn't want to miss out on something. Totally agree with you what it does for you in the future. I think it's interesting hearing you tell the story about how college basketball has changed for people with the transfer portal, certainly NIL and some of the bigger sports. I don't know that you're forced to do that as much, if you had the ability to go somewhere else right away, that's it. And it's a route you can take. It's a lot easier to do so. Absolutely. Than to be kind of like, this is the thing I got to figure out my way through. Yeah. If you look back, if that was available to you then, would you have made a move and gone somewhere else?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think
putting yourself back into that, 18, 19, 20-year-old self.
I probably wouldn't have, because I knew that when MA came back, that was another year to prove myself. And then when she passed away, I knew we were going to get a brand new coach. And then it was like, I have another year to prove myself. And then I loved Len. She is now the head coach of the LA Sparks. She just got the job. Oh, wow. So she's an amazing coach, an amazing person. She went from Chico. She took Chico the year after her graduate. They went to the Final Four. And then she coached at UOP, and then she coached at Utah. So I knew once I met Lynn that she was the person that I was supposed to play for, even though it was so defeating. And it's interesting because we have athletes as children, right? And so we were kind of dealing with this kind of situation with my son, Rocco. He had played for a team for 4 years, soccer, very good. But he was in a system that wasn't really benefiting him, even though he was starting. All the coaches liked him. He's a great player. We didn't know if the system was really for him.
Good fit.
And so at 12, he had to make the decision. Do you stay at the top club, or do you go to another club that maybe you play a lot more? Maybe they value you more. And it's like, as a college athlete, these are all the questions that you deal with. But like when our kids are dealing with it, when they're 12, it's one of those things like, do I stay? Do I go? Do I have the grit, or am I being taken advantage of? Am I being looked over? Am I not being valued? And that's where those are the tough questions.
Those are the tough questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look at every situation, and I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all answer. Mm-hmm. I think, are you being given a fair opportunity to compete, given a chance to play, given a chance to succeed, versus being forced to get better, right? Mm-hmm. Being forced to kind of look in the mirror and address the areas that you either need to improve, or, maybe even adjusting the way that you play to fit a team. I think all of those things have value. Mm-hmm. And I think the most important thing I look at as a parent and as a coach is finding value in whatever the situation is that can translate forward in life? Like, what's the lesson out of it?
Absolutely.
Which is why my 10-year-old son is always just like, Dad, why does everything have to be a lesson? Like, he jokes with me all the time.
Because it is.
I'm like, because everything is a lesson. Like,
yes.
and I see it that way. And you know what? If you pick up on 1 out of every 4 that I hammer in your head and the other 3 are stuck in your head,
then we're winning.
Right?
Yes.
And you hear my voice.
Yes.
So, but I think that's, the one thing that the stick-to-itiveness and kind of grinding your way through, inevitably it's a confidence boosting element for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Like, I can get through this.
Yes.
For years I used to have a running joke with myself that it's not 3:30 and I'm not getting ready to get in my car and drive over to 5 a.m. workouts where I know I'm going to get absolutely destroyed. So whatever it is I'm doing today is a cakewalk.
Yeah.
And it was just like a running joke to remind myself of that. And I look at it and go, but back then, those 5 a.m.s, I was like, I want to be anywhere else but here right now.
And it is really interesting as an athlete. Like, I remember times where we would have track workouts on the track. It'd be 106 out. Girls would be throwing up. And I would be like, am I going to die? And I always came in great shape. I was a runner. And I always liked to be first or second. I was highly competitive. And I remember thinking, this is so hard. Or our gym workouts where, it's crazy because at Chico, it gets super hot and there's no air conditioning in either gym. So if it's 109 outside, it feels like it's 115 in the gym. I remember just being like, can I breathe? Am I going to pass out? And those are moments where I'm like, this is hard. And so when people say like what I do, in network marketing, this is hard. I'm like, hard? What's hard about it? That you have to create a post, that you have to talk about it, that someone ignores you, someone doesn't respond back to you. Like, how is that hard? To me, hard is physically like, oh my gosh, can I make it? The kiddos and I just watched this documentary on Navy SEALs because my fiance's a Navy SEAL and we just finished watching Hell Week. Like, oh my gosh. Like, 1%. And that's like college athletes. What, 2% of people who play in high school become college athletes, and then 1% of them become pro. And you look at Navy SEALs, it's like the top 1%. That's hard. So when people say that certain things in work are hard, I'm like, you have no idea. And then I kind of feel like I judge them. I'm like, oh, they're not an athlete. They don't know what hard is.
There's definitely a relative sense of what hard is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think coaching in and of itself is to force people to go past the point that they think is hard so they can find a new boundary by nature, right? And I say it all the time, like if you look at the most successful coaches, the ones, and describing the coaches that had the greatest effect on you, right? They show you that they care about you. You're able to see they want you to be a better athlete, a better player, a better person, and that they care about you. It's very easy for you to trust pushing yourself.
Yeah.
The ones that, sometimes you have the counter effect is when you don't feel like they're looking out for your best interest. Then it's like, am I going to die? And I'm not so sure they would care if I died right now.
Right?
It's a very different experience than like we're trying to get in the best shape possible to go run laps around the team we're competing against. But the idea of like being uncomfortable is the growth in how you get in better shape. And I think that's coaching, that's parenting, that's like comfort is where we're naturally inclined to just slack towards. Like that's human nature. Yeah. Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable is, obviously one of those sayings that I think is very true.
Oh yeah.
And I think it does teach you a lot in sports, right? Getting used to that. Almost, I remember the cloud that hangs over your head when you haven't worked out yet as an athlete is such a very clear thing where you really don't have any ability to enjoy your day fully until you know I've done the work I'm supposed to do today. And I think that's one of those things that translates into life with work, parenting, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's interesting to hear you say it. Is there a moment before we I want to switch gears a little bit, but memories, like most memorable moment, like maybe the funniest thing that you kind of recall from your career, and maybe the single greatest lesson out of those? Like, we can go both directions.
The funniest. This is pretty funny. And one of my teammates, Marissa White, one of my best friends, she got married this last summer in Tahoe, and we were laughing so hard because one of the things that Lynn did when she came in is we would always have a beginning of the year retreat, team bonding. We would do crazy things. Okay. So one of the games, I think she called it Surjet Factor. So it was like Survivor, Jeopardy, and Fear Factor all combined. Well, one of the Fear Factor things was to swallow whole goldfish, to just swallow them. And so most people would not take a fish and be like, let me just swallow it, right? So there were a few of us, I can't remember if it was me or not, but I would totally do it because whatever, right? So before one of our games, not at halftime and not after, before we went out, they brought in 13 goldfish.
Oh my goodness.
And we were like, oh my gosh, here we go. So all of us ran out on the court with goldfish. It was just one of those moments that's like, people be like, you guys are crazy. Like, you all just ate and swallowed full goldfish. But it took us back to the retreat where it was like, we can do hard things. We're going to do this together. And I think we ended up winning that game, but that was funny.
That's wild. I would not, I don't think I could have done it and not been having a very, very weird off-center brain space for the rest of the game.
I'm like, there's a goldfish in my stomach. Who cares?
Yes.
We're going to go crush this team, right? So that was probably the funniest. And then what was the other one?
And this may be like one with just the most memorable experience from your career, like maybe a standout game or lesson from your time.
That night I got to start because it was, I came off a high school career being, top 3-point shooter of all time, one of the top in the state. I would usually make 3 to 7 threes a game. And here I was, like, not making any, not even getting the opportunity. So, like, the first time I got to start as a senior, it was like 4 years of hard work just waiting for my chance. And then being able, I think I hit 2 threes that game. And it was like, it was worth it. It was all worth it in that moment for me to be like, I did it. I showed them what I can do. Now let's go. So that game was like, yes. And then to go on a 9-game winning streak was awesome. It was kind of like, see, I told you.
Yeah, right. Well, taking that for the rest of your life, especially as an entrepreneur where you're not in a position where someone can hold you back or hold you down, when you possess that level of consistency, the results actually come easier and faster than when you're in that environment. But you've been conditioned to not expect immediate results, put your head down, do the work, and fundamentally it drives you. I know that's, to me, I think one of the best takeaways I had was, I knew how to just put my head down and grind and work, know what I want, chase it, expect it, but not expect it to be handed to me, and to know that it may not come right away, but I'm going to get there at some point.
And I think that is one of the good things about, I think, our generation is, if you take it back to basketball and how we had to either stay or if we transferred, we lose a year.
Exactly.
You look at a lot of 20-year-olds these days, when they get out of college, they go into one career. They don't like it. They're out a year. Then they try another one, maybe 2 years. They're out. They're very quick to just move on, where with us, we had to stay.
Yep.
We had to, how bad do you want it? And I see this in business all the time. It's like, well, how bad do you want it? When people can't even fathom like working for themselves for 5 years, but they'll work for someone else for 40. And it blows my mind. It's like, you don't have the grit, nor you just don't want it bad enough. Because people, when they want it bad enough, they stay.
Without a doubt. And I think the working together with, and for someone has certain securities and validations, I think the misnomer and misconception about like being an entrepreneur is the idea that somehow it's easier, or that you're not having to report to somebody.
It's way harder.
It's way harder.
Way harder.
And I think that's a big part of it, is that it's actually more work. It means you are, like I've said it for years, like I'll clean the floors and I'll, make the decisions. I'll do whatever needs to be done for us to be successful, has always been my mindset. And I think when you listen to any successful entrepreneur, that's what you have to have. Like, there's the hierarchy structure is way less important, because, like the dirty work is how you win.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's another part of why, to work for yourself for 5 years means, I'm on call 24/7. I'm, and for things I'm not going to get paid for yet.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a big part of why people struggle with it, right?
Oh, totally. Because they're not used to that instant gratification. People go to work for someone else, they know they're getting, a salary, or if they sell something, they know they're getting the commission. That's why a lot of people don't like sales positions, because they don't like the pressure of, I have to sell something. Like, can I just show up to an office, sit in a cubicle, know what I'm making, complain about my job, feel completely unfulfilled, and just go through the motions? And for me, it was like, that's not me.
Yep.
And I never sat in a cubicle or anything like that, but it just wasn't. I knew that there was a shift, and I think this happens a lot in your late 30s and, into your 40s of like, wait, why am I doing something that's not fulfilling me anymore? And I think with basketball, because it was still fulfilling, I still loved it. There was still that passion for it. Even though I wasn't getting the time on the court, I still loved practice. I loved practice because I actually got to play. So where other girls would complain, I got to go practice again, I'm like, sweet. I get to play the sport that I love. And same with coaching. I loved coaching. And then it came to a point when I felt like the love was kind of going away. I knew that it was time to shift into something else.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how was it coaching? Like, for you to be able to hand, some of those lessons over. I know shortly after I finished playing, when I kind of decided, all right, I'm not doing baseball now, because I had done both at Davis. I coached at El Camino High School for a few years, and it was kind of to just stay involved and still, and to kind of share those lessons. And then I ended up coaching at Chico State for a couple of years with Greg Klink, which was an awesome experience. But the ability to share the things that I learned, and to be able to like try to give a kid something that I wished I had known 2 years, 3 years, 4 years earlier, was really rewarding. And the competitive outlet of like, I'm going to come up with a game plan that we're going to be able to beat this team, or take this particular guy out of his comfort zone. Loved all those things. The money, not so much. It was definitely hard to support a family on that. But what got you into coaching to begin with, and what was that like for you? What was your kind of the enjoyment factor for that?
After I graduated Chico, I jumped right into the corporate world, and I moved to Folsom. So I had the flexibility and I had the time, and I loved basketball still. And so I had a friend who connected me with the athletic director at Folsom High School. And, for me, I didn't grow up with a lot of female coaches. And having a coach like Lynn, it was like, okay, she has given me so much, it wasn't just playing time. Like, she made me see a therapist. Like, she had me read leadership books, and so it was like, I want to be able to be that for someone, for a young girl. So coaching was awesome. I only coached 3 years at Folsom. It was a blast. When I was the head freshman coach, and then I was the assistant on varsity. And I think it was my first year on varsity. We ended up beating Nevada Union, and Nevada Union is where I played. And we actually beat my old teammate Rexanne and my old coach Rich. So that was like highlight of us coaching, because we weren't supposed to win. Nevada Union was supposed to win. So it was so much fun. There's, depending on what school you're at, there can be politics and all that stuff that I I was 21 when I graduated college. And so to be a 23-year-old, and it was just like, oh, these parents are a lot, parents are a lot, especially if they weren't athletes. They think all their girls are going D1. Yep. And some of the girls couldn't even shoot a 3. And, in Nevada Union, my junior year, we set a national 3-point record. We hit 263 threes in a year. We could shoot. So to go coach at a high school that they could hardly even hit the rim from the 3-point line, and there aren't a lot of gyms where kids can just go shoot. And I was very fortunate. My dad was a builder. I had an indoor basketball court. It didn't matter rain or shine. I was shooting. I had a goal to make 300 baskets every day, and I did that. And that was what I knew I had to do if I wanted to play college basketball. I had to be able to outshoot everyone. And when I started coaching high school, I realized these girls aren't getting the shots up. They don't have the gym. And then when I tried to get into the gym, there was some, the politics came out, and I didn't feel like I could really help these girls because there was always blocks. Mm-hmm. And that was really frustrating for me. It was like, I kind of felt like my hands were tied. If I can't help these girls, if I can't get in the gym to rebound for them for hours, I didn't like the blocks that I felt were there. That was frustrating.
I definitely can relate. I think that's in many respects, I understand it because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where is the kid getting a chance to compete? Mm-hmm. Should they be playing more like that? That isn't a black and white answer. Mm-hmm. And so when you take parents and they get inserted into the equation, if they have a sports understanding, sometimes they're better equipped. Sometimes they're also more driven, so they're even more difficult. And the ones that don't understand sports don't understand how, where their kids stack up. It's a difficult dynamic. Yeah. I know I had a good experience at El Camino. Chico State was great. I mean, Coach Klink built an incredible culture there. But it's been interesting, when I coach my kids and little dribblers at St. John Evangelist, the parents at our school have been great. I've enjoyed that, but blown away at some of the, when we go to other schools and we're playing, some of the things that I've seen with parents all the way down, first grade girls. I was like, oh, I didn't expect I was going to see this in first grade. They don't know how to tie their shoes, and they're more concerned about whether or not, Sally gave a high five on the way back. Yeah. And we got parents that think this is the NBA finals, bananas, right?
Yes.
And it was, it was good. Our parents were good, but I could see it with opposing teams.
Yeah.
Where we don't have refs, we're reffing and they're yelling at us we're reffing. Oh my gosh. And so I think it's interesting at that level, and I think that's always a challenge to keep kind of under control as a coach. Yeah. So I definitely understand that. When you made the decision kind of to hang it up, what do you think, if you were to describe what were you most prepared for in life, and what particular traits, you probably touched on a couple already, when you said, all right, I'm into business, life, I'm starting a family, I'm doing all these things, and now I have to figure out how to manage all of that. What do you carry forward, day to day, and what was kind of your source of kind of foundation?
Probably movement. I knew that I needed to keep working out, and I needed to shift my competitiveness into something else. And it was the gym. It was Tough Mudders. I started doing things like that. I did a Tough Mudder race when Mila was, when was it? Okay, so she was 3 months old. I crossed the finish line muddy, and Dom handed her to me, and I had a bottle ready. She was 3 months old. And it was I knew, even as a mom, I wanted to be an active mom. I wanted to be a fun mom. I wanted to be someone who can, play basketball, play with my kids. And it's crazy because my kids don't play basketball anymore. So as a basketball player, you always think oh, they're going to grow up and they're going to be these basketball players. They're both very, very good athletes, which is fun. And for my ex-husband and I, we have kind of a rule. You will play a sport. there's no option because it keeps you in line so much. So both of them play comp soccer. Mila also plays football, and she also plays volleyball. So, and I think Rocco's going to get into jiu-jitsu, which is something, obviously I didn't do that, but I think it just, it teaches a different form of respect and discipline, and also confidence. And I think confidence is one of those things that when you walk into a room, I believe this, when you're an athlete and you've done the hard thing and you've done the work and you show up to practice and you are held accountable and you have good relationships with your teammates, you have a different confidence. And I think for kids these days, like, confidence is everything because it's what helps you to say no. It's what's like, no, I'm not supposed to do that. Or no, I'm not going to look at that. Or no, I can't download that app. You know, it's like, but I don't know these days where you would get that if you weren't doing jiu-jitsu or playing a sport. And, you know, because kids are on their iPads all the time and they're on their phones. And how do you can't escape it. You can't. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's just the world that we live in. So what tools do we give our kids to help them? We are totally at that age. And I said this to my ex-husband last night. I'm like, we're there. I am no longer cool and I am annoying. And how did that happen so fast? They're only 10 and 12.
Yep.
And so it's so important that they get it from a coach, that they get it from their teammates, that they get that confidence that I'm not doing this for my parents. I'm showing up. We talk about health and wellness all the time in our house. And it's funny, the kids and I have probably had to run through maybe 4 airports, you know, coming in from international flights and grabbing the bags and then trying to catch the plane. We've always caught them. But every time we've been running, I'm like, this is why we're athletes. You know, we have backpacks on and we get there and we're sweating. But most people couldn't run like that. Like most 43-year-olds could not run through an airport a half a mile full on sprint if they needed to. And that's kind of sad. You know, it's like, what are we teaching our kids if we can't even run with them? If we can't play with them? So, I mean, I think sports is just like the backbone to confidence and discipline and accountability, which I think we're lacking a lot.
Big time. Yeah. And there's not a whole lot I can repeat on that because that's perfectly said. I totally agree with that. And I think the most important thing in a lot, on top of that I think my message to my kids all the time is I want you to be doing something that you love, mm-hmm. that you'll do when I'm not here, not just because I'm with you doing it, mm-hmm. because they need to have something they love enough that helps them make good decisions as they grow, right? Like you have to have the thing that you are afraid of losing or messing up to help you when you get progressively put in more and more decisions where you don't know to go left or right. Mm-hmm. If you have something to protect that's more important than anything, mm-hmm. like a sport, a career, a desire to play college sports, whatever it is, that's a huge asset in good decision making when you grow up. I know Absolutely. For me, most of the things that I avoided doing wasn't because I didn't think that might be fun. It was that I didn't want to take the risk that it would mess the thing up I love the most.
100%. I was just talking to my fiance about this last night. There were a lot of things that happened at Chico because it was pretty wild, and I didn't do because I was like, no. And this was before social media. I mean, I think MySpace came out. So I graduated from Chico in 2004. I think MySpace came out in 2004 or 2005, thankfully.
Right around there, yeah.
But like...
None of the kids that would listen to this would have any idea what that is.
No, right? Like, but I didn't do a lot of the things that people around me were doing because, if I got caught, I would be off the team. And that was what grounded me. Those were my people, And I remember track workouts Friday mornings, 6 o'clock on the track. Thursday nights was a big night to go out. Even my freshman year, living in the dorms, all the freshmen are going out, even though most of them couldn't go to bars, of course. And I was like, I'm going to sleep. I was 8. I just turned 18, and I was like, no, I'm going to sleep. I have track workouts in the morning. Like, if you don't have that.
There's no reason not to, right? And
Yeah.
Chico, I remember when my first season up there with Coach Klink, I remember him, and I didn't know Chico was a town at that point. My wife and I had just had our oldest, moved up to Chico just like a few weeks later, like, okay, we're off. But I remember him sitting down with our guys going, especially the freshmen, look, there was like the kickoff to the year and some place downtown where all the parties happen. So he goes, look, if you go down there tonight, there is guaranteed to be this series of things that's going to happen, and there's going to be people that get arrested. There's going to be, and he goes, so understand, if you are down there, this is going to happen, and you may or may not be caught in the crossfire. So my advice is, don't go down there.
Yeah.
And sure it can be. A few of the guys went down there. A few of them got caught up, and it wasn't, it ended up not being a major thing, but it was, hilarious because that like it's also a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And to have things that help keep people away from that is, I think as a parent, right, you want them to have the greatest arsenal of things in their tool belt to help them make good decisions as possible.
Yes.
And, you want their voice in the head. Like I say it all the time to my oldest, and she's finally caved. She goes, it's like dad speak. I hear other dads. I'm like, yeah, I want my voice in your head when you're out in the world.
Yeah.
And you hear it, and then it's like, whether you make your decision, but you know what I would tell you to do. That way, if you're not sure, you've got direction.
Yeah.
But there still has to be risk management.
Yes.
That if you don't have anything to lose, then it's a lot easier to take risk, right?
Absolutely. My kids as soccer players, they're they love Messi. I actually surprised Rocco on his 11th birthday, and I said, we're flying to Florida to go see Messi play. Benefits of having a side hustle and a corporate job, right? I was able to do that as a single mom, say we're going to go see Messi. I never got to see Michael Jordan play. And I remember as a high schooler thinking, he retired the first time when I was 10. I cried. I was so upset. And then he retired again when I was in college. And I remember thinking, when I have kids, I will make sure that they get to see their favorite player. And so the kids and I went and we saw Messi. And I love Messi because he is such a good example as a human being also. Like, he won't even put his arm around another girl. He's only been with his wife, And so it's awesome to be able to have, like, Steph. Love Steph. Great. It's like for our kids, whatever sport they like, for them to be able to see these athletes. And like the kids and I talk about drugs and sex and vaping and all these things. And it's crazy the very mature conversations I'm having with them, even at 10 and 12. But I'm like, do you think Messi smokes? Do you think he vapes? Like, no. I'm like, you want to be the best of the best, you got to act like the best of the best. So it's
Absolutely
like
do.
having, if you're not an athlete, like, who are these kids looking up to? YouTubers. And YouTubers are great. Some of them are great, but it's just so nice as an athlete to be able to, like, look what they're doing. Look how they're practicing. Look at, like, look at Kobe, look at Jordan. We talk about Jordan all the time, It's like, and it just keeps it like centered.
But that, my dad was able to connect me. He was interwired with the Kings, and I got to go and meet so many of those guys. It was like what just sparked like an even deeper love. I remember meeting Kevin Garnett his rookie year, getting his autograph as a ball boy for the Kings, and
that's awesome.
And like being able to be the ball boy numerous times. I actually told the story when I had just had Al Biancani on, who was the Kings strength coach for years. I got run over by Lionel Simmons as a kid when I was in the rebounding line. Like, he just ran me over, and like, but those interactions were like, I felt like it was a real, like it was. It wasn't just like a fantasy. Like, I was close to it, so it felt like it was achievable. And I think for, kids to see their heroes in person so they're not on TV, I think that's a really important thing. I'm actually actively trying to arrange getting that handled so my oldest, or my son, my 10-year-old, can see LeBron play before he retires, which has to be any year, right?
Yes.
But he's also a big Messi fan, so might have to pick your brain on where I can get that done.
Actually, you should take him to Florida. It was crazy when we drove, rented a Jeep, drove in. When I saw the stadium, like, I'm such a baby now, I cry over everything. Saw the stadium. I got all emotional. I even cried almost thinking about it. And here we were, like, there's Messi fans everywhere. See, I'm such a baby. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord, for letting me be able to do this with my kids. And we get there earlier, like super early, and like the field is just like beautiful, right? And then it was the last game. I was so worried about this because you never know when you buy tickets if they're going to be playing for their international team or they really, you know, it's like when you buy Warriors tickets and then Steph's not playing. You're like, dang it.
Yep.
So I knew that Messi was going to play, and he came out and he ran towards everyone and he waved, and it was amazing. He scored a goal that game. They ended up winning. There's fireworks. People were like, why are you here from California? And I'm like, we don't have Messi.
But that's
you
right.
know, it's like, it is worth the experience to be able to let them see it. And the kids and I have traveled all over the world with, you know, my network marketing job. We've gone to 7 different all inclusive vacations paid for, but guess what their favorite trip is? Florida.
Of course. I mean, that's the memory, right?
Yep.
That's the memory for it. And that's amazing. So you've touched on it, and we're going to have you on the Blitz break to talk even more about it. But talk to me a little bit about, so, you know, you are highly successful. Your job, you've touched on the networking with Arbonne, has, you know, been the vehicle that has, you know, taken you to these places, and it's, you know, I think a well-known you know, health and wellness brand. And so what attracted you to that in the first place? How did that get started? And you know, what were you doing professionally that, you know, prior to that kind of allowed you to open that door?
So my Arbonne journey actually started when I was 23. My sister was pregnant with my niece, who's now 20, which is crazy. She said to me, hey, Cass, there's this really cool company. They're clean. They're non-toxic. At 23, I did not care about any of that. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's a bunch of weird stuff, right? But she said, hey, if you sell enough, you can get a white Mercedes. And so I was like, I'm in. So I started, promoted to the first level, and then quit. A lot of people do this, right? They come in, they see the trips, they see the car, they see like the business opportunity, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to quit. Well, this was before Arbonne had any of the nutrition stuff. They didn't have protein. They didn't have the grains. They didn't have that whole side of the business. And I quit. I had met Dom. I was still coaching basketball. And so I was just like, I just don't need this right now. Right after I graduated from college, I took a job with Shaw Industries. They're one of the largest, they are the largest carpet manufacturer in the world. Great company. Very, very good company. So I was selling flooring. I was on the manufacturing side. I was an outside sales rep, traveling all around, made my own schedule. Again, being an athlete, I was so disciplined that I didn't go into an office. I worked from my house in my car, and I got to do everything on my own. It was great. Very disciplined, and loved working for that company. And so I started my Arbonne business. I quit, and then life happened, had kids, got married, had kids. And then about 11 years later, one of my friends said, hey, Cass, would you ever do Arbonne again? And I was like, no. I'd actually been using the makeup since I was 23. So been watching, you know, girls on social media and girls around me doing very well, traveling, doing all the things. And it was kind of like a good for them. You know, I knew Arbonne was an amazing company. It just, for me, it wasn't, I didn't need it. I didn't need it. We had 2 good incomes. Kids were happy. And then things started getting rocky on the marriage front. And so when my friend Erica asked me if I would do this Arbonne thing, I was like, no. She asked me for a year. Then she asked me if I would go to this party thing. Well, I knew what she was doing because I had done Arbonne. So I went to the party, left the party, said, okay, I'm not doing the business. I'm not doing the 30-day. I'm not changing my skincare, but I'll sign up just because I need some protein. And there were these fizzy things, you know, so I will do that. So for a year, I was just using some of the products and I liked them. And there was something inside of me that just kept kind of like nudging me. And as my marriage was really falling apart, I was like, maybe, you know. And then the night that my ex-husband moved out, I was holding my 2 kids, and I mean, my life at that night was like, my life is forever going to look different. And I was crying, and I just felt God put it on my heart, you're going to need this Arbonne thing. And so I woke up the next morning, it was April 1st, 2019. And I text my friend Erica and said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this 30-day thing. This 30-day gut reset. I'm going to do it. And so I did it, and I was finding success. I also was growing my Instagram at the time. In January of 2019, I started posting workouts. Never with the intention to become an influencer. There's that word.
No word. I like
know,
it.
Right? Whatever. We have to use it. It was more because my sister was working out at the gym. She didn't know how to use the equipment. And I had a really good friend in Fresno who had this equipment in her gym. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And so I was like, okay, I'll post my workouts. So you guys have no excuses. Just follow my workouts. And so I went public, had 400 followers. And people started liking them, and they were like, Cass, you're so inspiring. Thank you for doing this. And I was like, okay, you're welcome, right? When I started my Arbonne business, I think I had 600 followers. And then I had at the time, Reels weren't even around. It was carousels. Now we're back to carousels. They started going viral. And I was like, okay, this is cool. So I had started my Arbonne business, was trying to figure out life being single. Lots of things coming at me from Instagram, was not really focused on my Arbonne business because there were a lot of companies being like, here, promote this, you make 10%, or free bands and free this. And I was like, okay. And then at the end of 2019, when I was getting my stuff together to do my taxes, I realized I had been saying yes to all these companies and just kind of half-assing, sorry, I don't know if I can say that.
Oh, absolutely can.
Half-assing Arbonne, but I was making more with Arbonne, not even really trying. And so I said, okay, no more affiliate programs, no more promoting anyone's stuff. I don't want my Instagram to look like I'm just selling stuff, because I'm using Arbonne. Like, I'm helping people get healthy, and this is a company that I trust. They've been around for, this January will be 46 years. I loved their standards, and so I shifted. And financially, I was living in a house in East Sac. I didn't know how I was going to move. I didn't know how I was ever going to travel. I was feeling very defeated financially. I felt like I had gone backwards 12 years because I had gotten a divorce. And so it was March of 2020. I stood in the kitchen. I was crying, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I have to do something different. And then 5 days later, I got a message from a bunch of Arbonne girls who really didn't even know me. And they were like, Cass, we've decided, like, if anyone's going to do it, it's you. And there was the big shift. Here I had a bunch of women who were watching me they were like, we believe in you. Just let us help you. And so I was like, I'm going to start listening. I'm going to start talking about the 30 days. I'm going to start talking about the business. I'm going to tell everyone about it and stop worrying about being that annoying Arbonne girl, and really focus on being that mom, because, it was on me. It was like, if I want to move out of this house, if I want to pay for my kids' sports, because they're very expensive, if I want to give my kids the life that I thought I was going to be able to give them being married, I got to do something. And so that shifted for me. That next year was an awesome year in my business. It was also 2021, and so it was 2020, and everyone wanted to get healthy. And Arbonne has amazing programs to help people get healthy. So the following year, 2021, my team and I hit the third level out of 4. I was able to leave East Sac, get into a really nice house in Rockland, better neighborhood, better schools, all the things. I also earned... Sorry, I got something stuck. Also earned my first incentive trip to Bahamas. So there was this shift from standing in the kitchen crying. Sorry.
Are you good?
Standing in the kitchen crying, being like, how am I going to get out of this? To like, this is up to me. I had this business opportunity. I just had to get out of my own way and stop caring about what other people were thinking, because my Instagram was growing. I was providing so much value for workouts, but there was always this part where I was just nervous about talking about the business. And this is like the coolest business because anyone can do it. And so, the kids and I now, we've gone on 7 different all-inclusive trips and got my Mercedes. And last year I was able to walk away from my corporate job, and it's it was where I was 6 years ago to where I am now. My life looks completely different because of a decision.
And the foundational baseline of how to grind at it, work at it, and be successful from your athletic background and career obviously helps you know what to do. But I think it's interesting. And we talk about it, and to our audience, we're going to have Cass on the Blitz break, and we'll be talking in depth about Arbonne and social media and her success there. But the insecurities and the pause, I know I've more than gone through that. I knew I wanted to do this podcast probably 4 years before I did. Was playing with different forms of video, but there is that doubt that we all have about what other people think, and getting comfortable pushing through it. I think the thing that is really important that we talk about on the Blitz break all the time, and I think it's important, as a coach and as someone who goes through anything in life, you just got to start taking the wins and losses to build your confidence. Just like that journey through your career, like you don't get what you want, but you got to at least give it a shot and take whatever, failing forward is, like people like to say, right? That's how you get there. But you had to take the first plunge and be willing to take the risk. And I certainly think, to tie a bow on everything you've said, because you're incredibly well spoken about it, but having the confidence to take the risk, being able to not be afraid of what failing looks like, because you're going to get back on the horse, is one of those things I fully agree with you about sports teaching. And I think any coach and any message to any coach that's listening, if that's what you teach your kids, you're teaching them how to be successful in life, whether they win or lose games.
Absolutely.
Is the least important thing in 5 to 12-year-old kids, and even through the journey of high school sports, those lessons.
Working in the dark is such an important lesson, because you think, we've talked about this before, like how much did we practice, and we practice and we practice and we practice. It's a little bit different for kids these days because they play all the time.
Yep.
They're playing way more than we played, right? But it's like when you stop playing your sport and you want to start your own business, you're working in the dark a long time before you get, for us, you're walking across that stage, or you get your car, or you get the big paychecks. And that's where a lot of people quit. That's also where a lot of people quit with sports. Like, oh, I'm not playing, I'm going to quit. It's just so easy to quit these days, but it's
instant gratification.
Yes, like they need it. And I have one of my teammates, she even said to me, the harder thing with Arbonne is like you work your day job and you get paid. You work your Arbonne business and sometimes you don't get paid because people don't say yes. People don't want fizz. Maybe they don't need clean makeup. Maybe they don't, whatever, right? And it's like, but keep going and keep going and you keep going. And you see these women who have been in this business for 30 some years. And it's like, you look at the graph of their business, and it's like when it's down and people quit, that's when they start growing and they find the real leaders that want it. And, so much of it. And I've done trainings on this of like taking my college experience to moving it into Arbonne of like, what if I would have quit? I actually quit my Arbonne business when I was 23. Guess what? If I wouldn't have quit at 23, I would have retired from corporate America at least by 30, not at 42. But I didn't see the big picture, right? I didn't think that I needed that. I didn't think I'd get divorced. I didn't, there's all these things that life throws at you. And I think that when we are uncomfortable, which we talked about earlier, those are the moments that really push you to become who you're supposed to be. Because I am way more driven now, going through my divorce and not having that extra pushed me to be the leader, pushed me to be the entrepreneur, pushed me to be, so much more than I would have been staying comfortable. So sometimes it's like just sitting in the gratitude of like, yeah, I didn't think I was going to get divorced, but I'm thankful that my, being on my own pushed me into becoming this person, because now my kids are looking at, they hear people like, are you proud of your mom? And we pulled up a video the other day, like, we're really proud of our mom for working so hard. And they were like 6 and 8, I think, when I earned my very first trip, and it's like, that's what a coach does.
Exactly right.
We are coaches to our kids, and coaches can put that into a kid where they look back. And most of the time it's like, who's that one person that changed their life? A lot of times it's a coach. It's a coach that believed in them, because sometimes things aren't great at home, right? And so what do kids do? They go to their sport. I know for me, I didn't have a very easy high school experience with my parents. Basketball was my outlet. We didn't watch TV. It wasn't any of those things. We didn't have phones. It was like, that was my safe space. And so for coaches, you are a lot of kids' safe space. You
Exactly.
are creating that environment where like they get to come, they get to run, they get to be crazy, but also very structured. And that kid will look back one day and be like, oh, my coach changed my life. And that's powerful.
That is, I think if you're able to do that for, one kid, right, you've made a huge impact. But that's probably one of the most appealing things for a coach, is to have that influence, right?
Yeah. But you look at coaching is just like, entrepreneurship. It is so hard. And when you start building a team, you have so many different personalities. Coach K is one of my favorite coaches. And when he was coaching the USA team, he was in this interview and they said, well, how do you coach people like LeBron and Kobe and I think Durant? I'm trying to think who else was on that team. How do you coach
Steph Curry,
the
probably
best
all those
of the
guys,
best,
right? Yeah.
right? And he goes, I'm not going to teach these guys anything they don't know. It's about managing their personalities.
That's exactly right.
And I'm like, yes, that's what a good coach does. That's what a good entrepreneur does. Because as you form teams, entrepreneurs usually don't do it on their own. And for me, it's like, I look at my team and there's so many different personalities. Like, how do I coach this person? How do I love on this person? How do I meet this person where they're at? And you learn that through sports. So much of it. And having a coach, watching a coach be like I could get yelled at. I wouldn't have cried. Other girls, coach raises their voice, they start. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's such a baby. But my dad was a yeller, so you could yell at me. It didn't matter. But learning everybody's personalities. And when Coach K said that, I was like, gosh, she's so brilliant,
Totally. Well, I repeatedly say this, that, I thought my name was a 4-letter word that wasn't Phil for a good portion of my, career. And I never mind. Not only did I not mind it, it made me better when it was coming from a coach that I knew cared about me. Mm-hmm. Where it didn't was when I didn't believe that the coach cared about me.
Yeah.
And where I was, because I didn't think they didn't understand me. I didn't feel like they were doing it in a way that was going to make me better. I felt like they were doing it in a way that was actually counterproductive. And there was just a distinct difference, because the coaches who knew me knew how to do it, and it always worked, right?
Yep.
And I think that's, understanding their personalities and the players, and investing the time in their well-being in the little and big ways is also imperative, because, I think in being an entrepreneur or being a leader in a company or business, like, there's title leadership, and by default you have an authority position, but you have to earn the right to really lead and coach people, right?
Absolutely.
By putting in the work with them and showing them that you're not there for yourself, you're there for their success.
Yes.
And that is, I think the thing that sports prepares you beyond, I think anything else in life to step into those roles and understand. I also think you're never the singular boss. We all have a boss. So even when you're in the position of making the decisions, there's still someone else you answer to. Mm-hmm. And understanding how to operate where you're the leader and the coach in one realm and you're the player in the other, mm-hmm. and you need to be able to kind of fall in line and play your role while also taking control is the fundamental makeup of a team.
Absolutely. And I think leading from the front, I'm never going to ask my team to do something that I'm not doing. And I think you look at coaching, it was so fun because I just finished playing basketball, so I could still outshoot any of these girls, by far I could still play with them. And I look at the coaches who were great players, and you didn't always have to be the best player, but they can still shoot. They can still show. It's like, I look at some of these trainers in the gym and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I would never have someone be my trainer that didn't have the body that I wanted to have. And so it's like being an entrepreneur and being a coach, it's like, are you leading from the front?
Absolutely.
Are you speaking to your players the way that you want your players to speak to each other? Or, it's like, I don't know, you see it so much in leadership. It's like, who am I aspiring to be? And their work ethic. I look at work ethic. Like, I'll respect people, but I respect the most the ones who are disciplined, the ones who show up every day, the ones who don't just talk the talk, like they are walking it. They are doing the nitty gritty. And if people aren't, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't really listen to them.
100%. Like, show me the work. I will support you failing time and time again when I see the work ethic, because I know you're getting better. I know you're learning. The single hardest thing to do is to motivate someone to do the thing that they should have that intrinsic motivation to do. And the idea that you're always going to be at your best is the biggest, like fairy tale idea. We're all tired, not motivated at times. It's all about the discipline to get up and do it and get yourself into that groove. And I respect that as well. Like, that's the thing that, sometimes you have to be the coach that pushes someone through that so they start to learn how to have that. So, well, Cass, you are definitely incredibly inspiring to listen to.
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks for having me.
really grateful that you came in. I'm looking forward to carrying the conversation forward onto the Blitz Break, where we can talk a lot about what you've done with Arbonne and your fitness business, your health business. I mean, and for the audience here, give your social handles here. So
it's Kassidy Fit Mama, and Cass is Kass and then a C, Fit Mama. Kassidy
so if you
Fit
haven't
Mama.
checked out, follow her on Instagram. Plenty of workout tips and tricks, and from the success-driven influencer.
There you go.
Kassidy Callori. Thanks again for being here, and look forward to bringing on the Blitz Break. But any
Phil.
parting words?
No, thanks for having me. It's been fun. It's nice to connect with a fellow hooper always.
That's right. Bringing it back. Well, this has been another episode of the Triple J Sports Podcast. Thanks again to my guest, Kassidy Callori. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, and we'll see you next time.